the more that you step into really like deliberate creation in your life and deliberate focus, like you're absolutely going to get thoughts of doubt and thoughts of fear and thoughts of negativity. And actually, they'll be really strong because as you train the mind and begin to shift that power position of ego to the servant and you as the master, that ego will push. It will push back. It will fight. It will push back, and it will get strong. Like it will seem like it's getting stronger and stronger. So the challenges do get big, but you're ready for them.
If you're constantly ebbing and flowing with all or nothing, you're kind of, I would assume you're in a state of like, I want this, but I can't do it. I want this. And so you got this inner turmoil going on, and that's creating stress, a level of stress in your life. So ask yourself if it's something you really want. Maybe it's not something you want. Maybe it's something you think you want. But in reality, you kind of like the way that life is rolling out for you. And that's okay too, is my point. Give yourself a break. Like you don't have to be forcing yourself into a situation that doesn't feel comfortable.
Welcome back to the Yogi Triathlete Podcast. I'm Jess. I'm here with Beej and Clark. This is our monthly O Show, August 2022. And geez, a lot has happened since the last time we recorded, which was before, I think we recorded last time right before we were going to Oregon, 70.3. And of course, we did the SmackDown and we launched that super successful race all around for everybody who raced it on the team. A little extra shout out there to Chris, who got double worlds qualification. That was amazing. And it's a pretty cool trend right now that's happening. You know, I remember way back when being like, maybe someday we could get hats, you know, like that say Yogi Triathlete. And now it seems that every time the team shows up to an Ironman event, we're getting world's qualifications. It's so beautiful. It's so amazing. And I think it's a testament to the athletes and the team and the ethos of Yogi Triathlete. And, you know, to piggyback on what Ironman says, you know, what we do here at Yogi Triathlete is we really assist you in getting in touch with that energy where anything is possible.
Yeah, that commitment to belief. You know, you believe it can happen. And I think the same thing with Yogi Triathlete. It's just patience. Oh. You know, you got to keep watering it, the seeds, keep watering the seeds, keep watering the seeds. Some plants grow faster than other plants. So you just you gotta go experience it. You have to be willing to not push an agenda and instead have easeful efforting. Continually moving forward, but easing your way through it. It doesn't have to be that grit. It can be easeful efforting. Oh,
I like that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like about that the most is that as we're getting ready to actually launch the Awake Athlete website, I pulled a whole bunch of, I think we've got maybe about 10, hopefully all 10 can go up there, guided meditations for people to practice free. And just to get a taste of stepping into that energy when anything is possible. And one of the meditations that I pulled, and these come from the Awake Athlete community on Patreon, is about easeful efforting. Yeah.
Did you actually say that?
Yeah. I can't remember the exact name of it, but we're like so quarter of a century,
I probably heard you say it years ago, and now it's like sinking in. Oh, easeful efforting. Oh, that's my idea.
Yeah. And it's, because I always write a little synopsis when I put up the meditations in the community, and it's really like a meditation for if there's something in your life that's just like really sucking the energy, and it's like, it just feels like so much effort. This is a perfect meditation to start to move into, you know, what that easeful efforting is. And as I sit here and I look at this plant that's off to your left, I was just noticing how huge it is. Like, it's getting so tall. And all I do every day, or not every day, but like like I come down in the morning and I have a little bit of water left in my glass and I water the plants. And I'm looking at that now, but I'm not sitting by it and I'm like not micromanaging it. And I'm not like, oh my God, when's it gonna, sprout off a new piece of life and when's that gonna grow? And I'm sitting here and I'm looking at the fruits of just pouring a little bit of water in there and being kind to it and wiping the dust off it. And there's so much new life in there and it's just amazing. So that is no different than us watering our seeds. It's just every thought is like, it's a packet of potential. And so what are we watering, right? Like those are all seeds. And so it doesn't mean like you can't have negative thoughts. You might have those. You might have fearful thoughts. You might have doubtful thoughts and all of that stuff. But are you going to water them? And I think that that's what I hope that we're really bringing to the endurance sports world is this. It's not new because it's ancient, but new to endurance sports. This new way of training the mind, where we're really sitting in this place of power, and we're saying like, I don't need to water those seeds. I'm going to water the seeds that I want. And I think such a force behind Yogi Triathlete is just the observation that I've seen, and actually just talked to a new athlete just last week that we started working together, who was blown away that training the mind isn't about just pushing through hard workouts. And that's necessary. Let me tell you, you need that. But that's a very small percentage, and it's a lot of effort, and it's not sustainable, but it works when you need it. But to be in control of what you're watering in your life, that's amazing.
Yeah. Purposefully watering those seeds that you want and not watering the seeds that you don't.
Yeah. And in fact, the more that you step into really like deliberate creation in your life and deliberate focus, like you're absolutely going to get thoughts of doubt and thoughts of fear and thoughts of negativity. And actually, they'll be really strong because as you train the mind and begin to shift that power position of ego to the servant and you as the master, that ego will push. It will push back. It will fight. It will push back and it will get strong. Like it will seem like it's getting stronger and stronger. So the challenges do get big, but you're ready for them.
And this is why your default needs to be really rewired. Your default needs to be the baseline, meaning when the ego steps in and all the doubt and all of that creeps in, it's going to resort to the fast track, the least resistance way. So if your least resistance way is always to not do the workout, then that's what you're going to keep doing. Whereas if you start to incorporate a different default, where the default is like, oh my God, like getting home last night from Big Bear, I knew 30 minutes on the bike would benefit me. Does the data show it? Does my watch show it? Does my fitness in 6 months or from now or 2 years ago? Like, does that all matter? No, my default is I know that moving the body after travel will benefit me in my spirit, my attitude, and how I approach the next day. Mm. It checks the box. It's just a 30-minute ride. You would look at it like, what does it matter? It does matter. So back to the default. The default is I know that this is good for me. Same thing with your ride today. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into Big Bear, and I think we'll probably inevitably get into consistency. But yeah, so last time we recorded was early July, and we've since done Oregon, and then you've gone to Ironman Lake Placid. I went back east. I co-hosted a retreat in Rhode Island. That's always amazing. Like we both had family time, which I think it might be nice to just pause here and talk about navigating family time because there's such deep roots and there's so much love there. But there's also a lot of buttons that get pushed. And you had short family time, 24 hours, not even.
Not even.
How'd that go? Your family's, they're
amazing.
They're so amazing. They're so sweet.
It's a family that is like just gives, just gives and gives and gives of themselves in every facet of the word. And personally, I've had to work through this. I've had to work through it, with Meditator Bob of, working through my relationship with going home. And, at times I wasn't strong enough to go home and to work through that without bringing my baggage of judgment and, what I believed was the right way. And they're doing it the wrong way, leave that at home. And until I was ready for that, it was tough for me to go home.
Do you feel like have you ever had like guilt? Like I'm way out here, like guilt, or like you're living a selfish life, or was there any of that ever, you think? I've never even thought about that until just now.
No, I don't think so. I don't feel guilty.
I feel like your family has this amazing, and this is so your mom, ability to just like, it's the welcome home, right? It's like always just welcoming, whether you're family, whether you're a neighbor, whether you're somebody else's neighbor, like they'll just welcome you no matter what. And the unconditional love that flows through your family is so amazing. But you have found a lifestyle that works really well for you that doesn't look in the physical sense like the lifestyle that your family lives. However, at the base of it is a really strong work ethic.
Yeah, above all, like my dad, like
unbelievable
work, like I can't, like just be so vested in the effort and the work to complete the job or to help somebody out. And even when that job is done, it's like, what's the next job? So as a kid, I was working 3-4 jobs at a times. Even if I got to play with friends, I'd have to go home and do work like around the house. Like it was always about working hard. And that came from my dad. My mom worked hard too, but my dad really is like, he puts his head down, he gets to it. And to this day, he's still doing it at 68. I think he's 68, 67 years old. Older, 74.
I don't think he's in his 60s at all. I think he's well into his 70s.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, whatever.
However
old he is. He still works hard.
That means he's like 18 years older than you. No, that would be we should know I should not do math. But maybe he is. I think he's 70 in his 70s.
Yeah. But he works hard to this day. He's actually redoing the front porch of our house, which is no shock.
Just because.
But yeah, so, I did take a different path, and I think it weighed on me because I saw how much there is of the world to see, and I wanted the rest of my family to see it too. And when that didn't happen, I felt like I got to keep pushing the agenda. Like, I'm doing it the right way. You guys are doing it the wrong way. And until I got to that point where I could just leave that at home, leave it here, and I can just go home and be in appreciation and love and contentment with who they are, then things shifted. And that's what I've done actually the past 2 times. So yeah, it was a quick trip. I wasn't even going to go see them, to be honest. Like I was going to fly into Boston and then get to Placid, just zoom down. But my family is an hour south of Boston. So this is so amazing. Quick story. My youngest brother picks me up at 5:00 in the morning, all the way from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. He's a firefighter. Picks me up, brings me to my dad's house. I stay with my dad for a bit. He drives me down to go see my other brother who's working in Newport at a shipyard. So I got to see that brother. And then we drove to see my niece and nephew. And then we drove back to my dad's, and my other brother came in from Fall River with his kids. And so I got to see all my family except my sister up in New Hampshire. And then the following morning, the other brother in Fall River, drove me to go meet Billy Hafferty up in Newton, Mass, to go take a yoga class at 6 a.m. So we had to wake up and leave at 4:30. And he did it. So this just shows you how committed they are to, whatever it is, whatever you ask, they will provide.
Selfless service.
Yeah.
They're a total selfless service.
Yeah.
They're
so
amazing.
Beautiful family I have.
Yeah.
So it was a great trip. 24 hours was great. And then went to Placid. And that was an unbelievable experience.
Did you I was like, did you even sleep?
No, not really.
You came home, you just looked like you had been
like
at an all-nighter for like 4 days.
Well, that's where it started, right? Because I did the overnight, the red-eye flight, and then I didn't get much sleep that night before yoga, and then I had the full day of travel to Placid with Billy, and then I was excited to see everyone, and then once I'm at a race like that, forget about it. I'm so juiced. I love the energy, the vibe. I love meeting people. I love being with the team, training. And I think I swam every day. I just wore my bathing suit under my shorts the whole time so I could jump in the lake at any time. Yeah, it was a really good experience. Great to see Chris complete his first Ironman and Daniel crush another race, just put his head down and had a really strong day.
And we had a couple of friends there that were pros, and they both got paydays, which is amazing.
Yep, Alex
Watt.
and Troy.
Who you've been training with. She's one of Hillary Biscay's athletes. And Troy. And
I do have to talk
he had a great
race.
Today. Oh my God, he looked so beautiful running. I love to watch him run. And he had surgery on his hip like less than a year ago. So can't wait to see him shine again. I think he's doing Wisconsin. What were you going to say?
So was Alex. Alex is
cool.
in Wisconsin too. I should probably connect them too. But Troy's got to shorten his name because on the tracker, he's got the longest name. It's like 6 names, and it's like the tiniest print because they fit it all. If they just put Troy, he'd be like,
I know.
Right there.
And Troy was, I'll put a link in the show notes to our initial conversation with Troy back in like 2016, I think it was.
In Boulder.
And we go into the story behind his name as Troy because his real name is Rodrigo Romero de la Cadena, I believe is his full name, which is a beautiful name. So still figuring that out. Yeah, cool. And then you came home. We had like 24 hours.
So then we tag teamed. Yeah, you picked me up at the airport, came home, slept. Next day, I drove you to the airport.
Yep.
And then you went to the Cape.
Yep. I went to the Cape. And unlike you, I put a do not disturb sticky note on my bedroom door. And I say, do not come into this room because there's no privacy in my house. Like everyone is just, they'll just walk right in. It's like I'm 12 again. And so I have to put notes on my door. Like do not, they know now. It's like DND. I'm on DND, do not disturb. So I slept for a few hours and my sister was there, in from Denver. She moved to Denver recently and went to the beach. And then she left like on Friday. We had so much fun though. We had so much fun. Like her and my mom and I one night were just sitting crying. We were crying like my face. It was hurting. Like it got almost to a point where it wasn't fun because we were laughing so hard, which is really cool. My mom is 89 and she'll take anybody on, man. She will run you into the ground. Her energy level is crazy. And you literally, if you go and you stay there, you have to beg her to go to bed. Like, meaning, I'm like, Mom, please, I just want to go to bed. And like, she's up and she's watching Shark Tank and she's like ready to roll. And she's like getting out the Klondike bars and all this other stuff. And I'm like, Mom, I don't want that. It's not vegan. She's like, really? It's vegan. She tried to feed me a couple things that weren't vegan. And then I think she thinks that she is more vegan than she is. But as she reminded me several times, at 89 years old, she can do whatever she wants. And drinking wine every night is one of those things. So we had a good time, but it was there was a lot of shark things going on. So it was like a lot of Shark Tank to the point where I started dreaming about Mark Cuban's face, and just really disruptive.
Oh, is he the host of it?
He's one of the. You've never watched Shark Tank?
I've never watched it.
Well, it's all these like big time like entrepreneur people, and then people go on and they're like, they call them sharks. Like, hey, sharks, I've got this, blah 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 product, and it's going to hit the market, and then they're looking for investments, and so I think there's like 5 or 6 of them. My mother freaking loves that show. And so, but it's like, there was one night where I think we watched 5 episodes and my eyes were like bugging out and I'm like trying to go to bed. And of course, the television is huge and the volume is like cranked and I'm like trying to go to sleep. And I don't have that kind of stimulus in my life before I go to bed. And so it was a lot. There's some disruptive sleep. But I would get up every morning, set my alarm and get up every morning and I would get my meditation in and start the day clear. And the goal was just to be in service. So we had Shark Tank, but it was also Shark Week. And so when my mom wasn't watching Shark Tank, my dad was watching Shark Week. And so there was a lot of shark energy. And it was good that when I got home, we got right back into the ocean. I was like, I'm just going to get into the ocean, even though my dad, again, volume super high, huge television, great white sharks everywhere. The whole time, like I was there for a week. And then when it wasn't Shark Tank, it was like the big Al-Qaeda kill that happened, like the terrorists that they took down. And oh my gosh. So needless to say, I was doing some technique while I was there. And I love my parents. They are awesome and fiery and controlling and fun, and they're a handful. But it was a good trip. And then travel and
then you had your retreat with the girls?
Yeah, and then we had a one-day retreat. A couple people from the team came, Mira and Brendan. That was incredible. I think we had about 8 people there that were with us in Costa Rica, and they were just coming together to, reconnect and, dive back in, and just so cool. It was amazing. And there's anybody who's in Rhode Island or Mass area, new vegan restaurant in Bristol, Rhode Island called Foglia. Oh, it's so delicious. And they actually catered the event. And then Megan and Valerie and I went there for dinner that night and we met the chef, and just really amazing. So yeah, that was good. And then I got home and I think like 2 days later, I had like a PTSD attack. Yeah. From like, all of a sudden I was like feeling all this overwhelm. Whew. And so, like I said at the beginning, you're not going to be immune to this just because you start on this path to be like, hey, I'm going to be in control of my mind. So you just got to allow it, right? The easeful efforting, just allowing myself to feel that way. And it's just about a day or so. I didn't even think it lasted a full day. But just this unbelievable, like I could feel this like crazy, like panic, like overwhelm. It was terrible. It was a terrible feeling. And I just went walking, and I think I did like an easy run, and I think we went swimming, and just trying to stay in flow and letting it be there and not indulging in all the thoughts about what it was, which I know what it was. It was a week of Shark Tank and Shark Week. It was travel. It was being in a plane with a lot of different energy, and yeah, that's gotta pass through. So yeah, and then so it was a good trip. It's a good trip. It's like, being with family. It's like going into an ashram for a week. But make no mistake, I love my family very much. My brother was there, and I typically end up laughing my face off with him as well. He's hysterical. So it's a good crew, really good crew. Yeah. Hey, before we also get into deep into this podcast, I want to just give a shout out to our Patreon community. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, they've been with us. Did we start it with the podcast in 2016, or we started?
I think it started around 2017 or so.
So we've learned to use this program, which was meant for podcasters, like to build creators to support, like for YouTubers and podcasters, and we've just had a steady flow of people who have just contributed to support us in so many ways, and they ebb and flow. Some people are coming in from, to practice yoga. Some people are supporting, they just want to donate once, give us something and then move on. And it's grown to support and hold your Awake Athlete community, which I think is a gem. If you guys haven't checked that out, definitely look at the Awake Athlete community on Patreon. And then to see each month, interaction, and to see some of our Patreon members at yoga, like Monday morning yoga at 7 a.m. It's just bringing more community to Yogi Triathlete. There's so many ways to connect with us. Social media, the podcast, Awake Athlete, Patreon, in person here in SoCal, yoga. There's just all of these avenues to connect and extend the community that we have purposefully on a mission created for ourselves, and to be in service to others.
Yeah. Yeah. And, the Patreon community is solely responsible for this podcast and the Awake Athlete podcast being completely commercial free. So if you're enjoying that this is a uninterrupted stream when we have guests, when we do our O show, if you haven't listened to the Awake Athlete podcast, there's 3 seasons. Those are all short form, quick drops, anywhere from 6 to 25 minutes, I think at the longest. And all of those are commercial free because of our Patreon members. So whether you're at $5, whether you're at $225, like, thank you. There's no way we would be able to do this without that. And we certainly do not take it for granted. And we hope that we are giving back some really good perks too, which I think we are. So check that out, patreon.com/yogi triathlete if you are interested in more of that. And then we also have our Maui retreat coming up, which is going to be, by the time this launches, it'll be just about 4 weeks to Maui. And we have 4 rooms left. So if this is something that speaks to you and you're just trying to figure out how to do it, reach out. Like, there's no pressure. Reach out. Like, let's see if we can work this for you. And if you feel like you really want to be there, then reach out. Let's see what we can do to get you there. We'd love to have you.
It's the week before Kona. So for you athletes out there, not that this is a must for athletes, although I'm saying it's a must for athletes, myself included, I will be there the week before I'm going to Hawaii to race the World Championships. I will be in Maui.
It's very Mark Allen of you, because Mark Allen would be like with his shaman
in a volcano or something. Yeah.
and like meditating and things like that before the World Champs.
And that's how I'm going to prepare. Yeah. That's exactly how I'm going to prepare. I'm going to prepare the mind. The body's already prepared. It's already set.
So you'll have 2 yoga practices a day, and you'll have at least 2 meditations a day. And then it probably most days you'll have 2 yoga classes per day.
Plus a little bit of training.
Oh, yeah. Plus your training.
I'll do a little bit of training.
I just think, like, that's amazing. Like, that is the ultimate yogi triathlete way to prep for the World Champs. And I just think that that's really incredible that you're coming. So if you want to join us there, we got a couple people from the team. Coach Liz is going to be there. I know Chris that's coming he's bringing his bike. He wants to do some training with you. So, you can make this like whatever you want to make it. If you just want to go in and do yoga and meditation, you can do that. If you want to do yoga, meditation, and train with Beej, you can do that. So yeah, then we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And then we also just opened
Training camp 2023, January 12th through the 18th, 12th to the 16th. I want to extend it longer into my birthday, but 12th to the 16th. Yeah, super excited. So this will be year 4.
This will be year 4? Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I know.
It's so cool. And that's based here in Carlsbad. And that's going to be, it's very true to Yogi Triathlete. It's going to be swimming, biking, running, yoga, meditation, and amazing food. We don't skimp at all. Yeah. And if you want to connect with anybody who's been in the past, let us know and we'll connect you with people who have been in the past. If you want to reach out to Coach Daniel or Coach Liz, they've both experienced it as well. Reach out to them. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out to us and we'll get you guys connected. So if you want to just ask questions, but you don't want to do that with Beej and I, we'll get you set up. Yeah. This is open and honest. You can even email us and say, hey, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to Coach Daniel. And we'll say, okay, cool.
Go right to him. Running on Instagram, Running on Venti, and Instagram, Vegan Powered Athlete. Go right there. You can bypass us. Go there. Go ask them your questions. But I think there's no better place to be in the winter, especially for you New Englanders, East Coasters, Midwesterners, in the brutal January weeks. To escape the snow and come to sunny Southern California for some sun and beach time. And we'll even swim in the ocean. It's plenty warm enough. with a wetsuit.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how warm it is. Bring your booties, but it'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll make you feel alive.
Cool.
So that's camp.
Yeah. I
What
think
else
that
we got?
catches us up. Well, we're just getting back from a race.
Yeah. That you raced.
Yeah.
That we still don't know the results on.
Oh my God. You're
48
you're such a
hours
triathlete.
later.
You're such a triathlete. It'll come. The results will be posted.
Yep.
We were talking about, so I did the Kodiak. So Kodiak ultramarathons have like every distance you could imagine.
No, except the 5K.
Yeah, they don't have a 5K and they don't have a 200 miler, but they have so this past weekend, we were up in Big Bear and they have 100 mile, 100K, 50 mile, 50K, half marathon, 10K. Amazing. And I had heard about this race since like almost as soon as I moved here, like when I started getting connected with trail runners. And I was originally signed up for the 50K. And coming off at Mendocino, I had to take some time off of running. And there was like one day, probably like I think when I got back from Costa Rica, it just kind of hit me. I was like feeling like this, like ramping up for an ultra was just not feeling good. It wasn't feeling right. And then I've got this thing in my head, like, let your yes be yes. And so I thought, well, how can I let my yes be yes and also honor where I am and prep for Oregon? And also I want to do well in Santa Cruz, which is 3 weeks after this, 50K that I was signed up for. And I think it was like June or so, I got on the website and I saw that there was a half marathon and I was like, okay, that's an option. But I just left it there. I just knew that's just an option. Stay focused on Oregon. And I could feel that part of my mind that just wanted to make the switch so I could feel that relief, like, oh, but I just let it sit. And I just stayed focused on Oregon. And I said, just see how you feel after Oregon. And there were so many times I wanted to talk to you about it. And I was like, just stay focused on Oregon. Just stay focused. And right before Oregon, so beginning of July, I emailed the race director and I said, if I need to switch, can I switch? And she was like, absolutely no problem. Let me know by the end of July. And I was like, okay, great. And that was it. Didn't talk to you about it. Just stayed focused on Oregon. I came off Oregon, felt really good and had really felt that half marathon distance. And then knowing that travel was coming up and just feeling where I was as far as ramping up, I asked you. And we both agreed that doing the half marathon was the right thing. And so I did that yesterday. And if you are looking for like a trail experience, like this was like a big mountain, high elevation in the high desert trail experience without the ultra miles, like this is your race. It was so cool. Because we're out there with 100 milers, which is just so legit. I think they had 18,000 feet of climbing at this 100 miler. And we got to see some of those guys coming in before the start.
It was 15,000, wasn't it? Something crazy?
18,000.
18,000, yeah.
Yeah, it was 18,000. And just like seeing these guys come in on Saturday morning after being out there since 5 a.m.
One guy was crying.
Friday morning. Yeah, I was like crying. I had chills. It was just so cool. So this is an awesome, really well-run event in everything that is trail fashion. Super great swag. Like you get your bag, you get your shirt, you get your stuff. And then they're like, oh, go under that tent and take whatever you want. And there was like glasses and there was squirrels and there was tumblers, and there was just all this stuff. And they were like, yeah, just take whatever you want. Just so chill. And to be in that like really cool environment, but not be doing like ultra distance, this is your race. This is totally your race. It was really awesome. And a legit course, like a legit half marathon course.
Yeah, that hill, I only saw the hill start and finish. And that was pretty
nothing.
Brutal. It looked pretty brutal to start.
Yeah, it starts
Straight
on an
up.
uphill.
Yeah.
It goes 3.5 miles up to 8,000 feet. And then you get on this ridge line. And it's like, remember the dots up in Netherlands that we used to mountain bike? And it was just like really curvy and amazing, like dirt and pine needles. That's how that trail was up top. It was like you were on a racetrack. It was so fun. It was a little bit of a mind bender though, because I kept having to remind myself like, because it's this big mountain race. You're at high elevation, but I'm not running an ultra. So I was like, oh yeah, like you need to keep pushing because you only have 7 miles left. Like you don't have 27 miles left. Like you have 7 miles. Like you got to go, girl. Like get it done.
How was the elevation? Did that affect you at all? We talked a little bit about it, but
so using
we live at 33 feet.
Yeah, we live at 33 feet. And so the first thing I notice when I go to like high desert type places like that is just my body goes into like, I just was super stuffed up. I was sneezing, like 24 hours of like relentless. And then finally I was like, we got to find a Walgreens. Like I gotta do something. So we went to Walgreens and I got like a nasal spray because I was just like, oh, like, I don't know if I want to take a pill. And it was just a very overwhelming experience to see the selection of allergy remedies. And this was great. So I got this like nasal thing and that cleared it up and I was fine. So that was the first thing I noticed anytime I go to elevation and it's dry. So when we were in Bryce, anytime we go to St. George, because I think Big Bear's at about 6,500, 6,600 feet. And then, so we started on the hill and I started running very, very slow and easy. And then all of a sudden you just feel it, right? Like you're like, whoa, like you feel like you take the air in, but it's very thin. And so I was like, okay, walk. Cause I knew that my success yesterday was going to be all about the first 3.5 miles and pacing that. And I saw people were just running by me and they were huffing and puffing and they were doing exactly what I did in Mendocino at the Mendocino 50K when the wheels fell off at mile 10. They did exactly what I did, was like they got their heart rate way too high and they just, I fell apart up in Mendocino. But then once I started hiking, it was really cool going up. So once you go up that road, you take a left, you go down a little bit, and then you hit the trail, and it's just like up. You get a lot of elevation quick. And there were people running, and I was hiking at like a 14-minute mile, which is actually pretty fast. And I was passing them, and they were huffing and puffing, and I wasn't. And I was like, okay, like that's just confirmation, like I'm doing the right thing. And I kept asking myself, is this smart? Yes. Is this smart? Yes. Is this smart? Yes. Are you going too easy? No. And I kept looking at and I didn't let my heart rate get over like 162 on that climb.
Which is what for you? Like Z4?
High Z3. Yeah, I mean, it said the hold. 90% of the time I was at threshold,
yeah,
which according to Koros is 155 to 173.
Well, also you're at elevation.
But I knew that
there's an effort.
Yeah.
So it's going to boost up, in my opinion, 5 to 10 beats.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was just feeling my breath. I was completely under control. My breath was completely under control. I wasn't doing that at all. And then it just hit me. I was like, oh my God, this is Palomar Mountain. Like I felt my glutes and I was like, this is Palomar Mountain. Like it was just steady. Like I didn't have to slow down. It was just like, everything was turned on and my body was like, yeah, this is Palomar. This is what we do on Saturdays. Like we climb 11 miles straight, relentless, and it's fine. And then whenever there was a time where it went flat and my heart rate would drop into like the 150s, I would run. And when I ran, I could run at a good pace. So I was like, this is awesome. And then I would say once I got to the ridge and I started to push it, God, it was so fun. I just felt like a kid up there. There was a couple times where I was like, whoa, whoa, I might pass out. But I just kept going. It was fine. So elevation, those are kind of the 2 times that I felt it.
Yeah. I went for just a run around the neighborhood where we were, and a minute in, I already felt it. And I was just doing an easy run.
Well, you did a 14-mile run.
Yeah, but I was a minute in.
You did more than I did at the race.
But this is the parallel I want to draw to your experience and mine is, even though we felt that, I don't give it a lot of attention. Like I understand I'm going to feel this, like I feel this kind of swirliness. Just you said it well. I think you just felt a little bit off, or like heightened awareness.
Yeah, I almost felt like I had like a caffeine high.
Yeah.
Like a little bit like, woof,
Yeah.
whoa, don't really feel 100% in control.
But then it settles down, is my point. It doesn't become the focus. It's not like, oh my God, I'm not gonna be able to do my run. I'm gonna hyperventilate. I just gotta, stop. It's just working with that feeling. The surprising thing is when we lived in Boulder, I never felt that. Like I don't recall ever feeling that when we transitioned into living in Boulder.
Right, because we were gym rats then.
Yeah.
You weren't a triathlete yet.
No, but even when I started to run and stuff, I don't really feel like I was. Anyway, the point is, I feel in my mind I've locked that in where it's not going to affect me too much. So you didn't let it affect you. This whole your eyes and sneezing and blowing your nose and all of that wasn't derailing you into what experience you would have on the following day for race day. You just kept moving from what's the next thing I need to do?
Yeah, like I got the peppermint oil and I was taking big sniffs of that and I was like, well, that's not really working. But I was just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of enamored with watching how my body reacts and responds and figures it out for itself. But then finally I was like, I think I'm going to go to Walgreens. There's some drugs out there that might clear up these symptoms. And so, and because I don't put any of that stuff in my body, I knew that it wasn't going to take much and that it would just like clear up. But no, I don't get caught up in, I didn't even know what the elevation was, I think, until we were driving up there. I was like, how high is Big Bear? And I'm not saying like disregard it. I knew I was going to be at elevation, but I also knew that a big part of this was going to be nutrition.
Right. Yeah. You really focused on that. Yeah.
And using the right stuff also.
Not just the right stuff, but.
Yeah, the right stuff and using the right stuff. That stuff just continues to prove everything that it says in the pamphlet, for my experience. Another race where typically I would have a pounding headache after a trail race, especially at elevation. I had none of that. Again, like that's crazy. Not crazy. It's awesome. So I knew that nutrition was going to be huge, and I wanted to also focus on getting in about 100 calories more than I normally do at a race. And I knew because it was a half marathon that I would be pushing an effort, and I wanted to see how my body responded to putting in more calories. So I did all of that.
What did you take in?
Okay.
Give me a rough.
So I wrote it down here so I don't have to do math.
Okay.
We might have to do math though. So I took in, so that morning I had applesauce, banana, scoop of protein powder, and then 24 ounces of Guroctane with a right stuff in it. So that was breakfast.
3 hours before the race.
Yeah, I had that at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then right before the race, I ate a banana. So that's about 100, I think it's about 100, let's say 100 calories. And then I wanted to really front load on the climb because I knew that would be a good time to take in nutrition. So 34 minutes in, I had already gone through a bottle. So Guroctane with a whole packet of right stuff in it and like a quarter of a bag of Goo Chews. That was massive amount of calories in a short period of time. And then I just chilled because I was like, okay, just let the body absorb that. Got to the first aid station and had Coke. So there's 2 aid stations on the half marathon course. I had Coke at both of those aid stations. So the total amount that I took in was, should we count the banana?
Yeah.
Okay, let's count the banana. Do you want to do the math?
Sure.
You think you can add it in your head?
I will try my best.
Okay, let's see. So the banana, 100 calories. A packet of Goo Chews, which was 180. 3 bottles of Roctane, which was 750. 2, I would say 6 ounces of Coke, which I looked up is about 120 calories total. And that's it. And then 3 packets of right stuff, which is not calories. That's more sodium,
so I have
electrolytes.
1150 in my head.
Yeah. So, and the race took me 2 hours and 40 minutes. So let's say 1150. How would I do that? What would I divide it by? 2.4? If it was 2, sure. I do? Yeah, is that right? Oh my God. That's a ridiculous amount of calories. No wonder I was going to throw up. was like 479 calories an hour. That was a lot. I definitely felt like I was going to throw up a couple times. Those goo chews, I took them on my ride today and I was like, no, not ready yet. Not ready for the blueberry pomegranate goo chews. But I just wanted to I wanted to push it. I wanted to take it to the max. Like, how many calories can I get in?
Well, I think the two things. One, when we spoke with Amber Ferreira, she talked about being a small person and really fueling herself over and above and beyond. And really planting the seeds, because we've already had people comment about that podcast about, whoa, she really took in that much. Second is doing that at intensity, which you did. So not just taking in it during a long ride or a long run where you're at an easy pace, cruising along, but actually use this stuff and see how your body interacts with it and digests it while you're putting it under stress.
Yeah.
Race pace stress.
Mm-hmm.
How does that work out? That's where you're truly going to know what's going to happen on race day.
I think the goo chews were that's what was putting me
The
over
goo
the
chews
edge.
are similar to what you used when you did Coeur d'Alene with the margarita blocks from Cliff. And it didn't go well. So
I know.
I wouldn't incorporate those.
I didn't take any gels. I think I could have gone. I
wouldn't do goo chews.
I could have done really well with what I had minus the goo chews.
Yeah.
And that would have been what? That would have been 180 calories left. That still would have been fine.
I would have said take the liquid ones. What is it called?
Oh, the liquid energy.
The liquid energy.
Yeah.
I would say take one of those instead.
Yeah. But I purposefully was like, all right, let's just see. I kind of knew that was going to put me over the edge. But
now you know. That's what a great experience.
I feel like I recovered really well. I mean, my quads are incredibly sore right now.
But that's the first time. You didn't say they were sore yesterday in the car. You didn't say them last night. You didn't say it this morning until...
No, this morning.
You walked down the stairs.
Yeah. Well, when I
think you walked down the stairs and then down the stairs. And then you were like, whoa.
Yeah, I had to use my go-to walk down the stairs backwards. That is the trick. If you don't know that trick, if your quads are super sore, because the last 3 miles of this race is downhill, which I love. So I just let it rip. And I think I paced it really well. I executed the race really well, really well. So 2 hours and 41 minutes on my watch, but I don't know what official results are or where I placed.
How are you doing with that?
I'm fine. How are you doing with that?
I'm fine.
You're not fine.
You're not fine.
They'll be up at some point.
Yeah, they will.
We were laughing yesterday because we were thinking about all the things that would be unacceptable if these things got, and really, I mean, logistically, it's not going to work to have maybe it would, but a cupless race at an Ironman, I don't think that would fly. It would work, but people would have to stop. There would be lines because, there's thousands of people, but the results not being up.
Right.
Yeah, no mile markers. There's no mile markers. You have no idea where you are on the course. But it was great. It was so great. Great volunteers.
Would you do it again?
I would do it again. Yeah. How did you feel about it?
Yeah, definitely was a cool venue, I think. And just the energy there was pretty cool. Definitely was a party scene at the end of the race. The big beer ambulance.
Yeah, there was an ambulance that was basically just a huge keg.
They were making
Athletic Brewing was there too.
Brewing was there. They were making Kodiak cakes afterwards. Definitely the vibe was awesome. And the town is... I journaled about this morning or yesterday, just about how much of Big Bear, the drive up the town and running around the loops of the neighborhoods reminded me of all the places that the mountain towns we've stayed at, visited, lived in, like Fraser Valley, Winter Park, Coeur d'Alene, times when we spent in Coeur d'Alene, up in New Hampshire when we would do hikes and camping when we were younger. It just brought back a lot of memories of those times and experiences and the feel good moments because they all felt good. And I felt good being in that town. It was cool. It was definitely different. I would say the one thing was the lake. Just really, really low. I was surprised at how low Big Bear Lake is. Really low. You can see the docks from the vacation homes that should be leading to the water, but there's a lot of beach or grassy land area before you actually get to the water. So that was quite quite shocking to me. Yeah. I guess they've had some flooding, some monsoon weather there, a little bit, some rain, but it looks like they really need water. Yeah. That's probably the only shocking
I think they're
thing.
really seeing, climate change in these lakes and Big Bear for sure. Yeah. And then the actual water itself looked a little off.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming because there's less of it to disperse what's ever in it. When you bring it down to less water, that everything gets more concentrated. So I would assume that's why there was just a different coloring.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't stopping people the party boats were out.
They have a party boat. Yeah. Party time.
And we found a cool place to get a smoothie afterwards, which was great.
We actually stayed in a really cool place too. This little tiny cabin, tiny house. I had some people reach out after I posted that photo asking what it was like to live in a tiny house. And we haven't lived in, but we've rented tiny spaces all along our journey across the country. And I think a big element of it is just having less. If you have less in your life, like you live with minimal stuff, then to go and live in a space with your significant other and 70-pound dog isn't really a big deal. Like you really make good use of space. Typically most often there's only one other door in these little tiny places, and that's to the bathroom. So if you need privacy, get used to sitting, on the toilet, working on your computer as a quiet space if someone's napping or doing a conversation and we make use of the space so well. We had the yoga mat in the kitchen area. I think you just got to make good use of space and just have less, just live minimally.
Yeah. And, I packed one outfit that I was going to race in. And then when we did the shakeout run, I wore that one outfit. I only had trail shoes. So even though we ran on the road that night, I ran in my trail shoes. I brought one pair of shorts. I brought one t-shirt. So it was, I brought one pair of yoga pants. It was, we just had a backpack each. And then Clark had his bag. So it's not like we're going in there with suitcases and all this stuff. You can pack minimally. And we were just up there for a couple nights. But even if you're up there for a week, right? How many times have we washed our clothes in the shower and then hung them out to dry and then wore them the next day, or not wash them at all and wore them the next day?
Yeah. And then just making good use of all the stuff that you have, like pans. We didn't have a dishwasher in this place. So it's like, keep using stuff until you need to wash it, dry it, wipe it clean, and then let it dry and use it again the next day. So yeah, it really is cool to stay in these places and get an experience for living tiny. I think even us who I would say we do a good job at it can even get better at it. I brought too many clothes for sure myself. I probably brought half my wardrobe. I have a small wardrobe. But it's just, do you really need all these things? And you don't. You really don't.
No, and even the way I packed nutrition was I calculated how much I was going to need, and I scooped out the Roctane, put it in Ziploc bags, and then I went through all of that. So it was the nutrition bag was pretty much empty, except for the couple gels that I didn't take on the race. So it's not like we were lugging up all these big containers. We just kept it really minimal. We knew the place was going to be small. It was tiny, but I didn't feel cramped. No,
the layout was really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. So I know you wanted to talk a little bit about consistency.
Well, yeah. Do we have time for that?
Yeah.
I think it's the cornerstone of being a successful athlete is this consistency. And I know it's something we have mentioned before, but what sparked it in this particular instance is you being able to jump into a half trail marathon and still be able to crush it without actually running a ton of trail miles and running 13 miles or 14 miles at a time. And being able to go out the next day after this race and bike for 3 hours as recovery. So that's only possible. There's a few things at play: diet, stress, mindset, attitude. But I really feel when you're consistent, like you're consistent in the training, no matter what it is, you can sort of jump, you can't sort of, you are capable of jumping into any type of race that you feel compelled to participate in. Like this ebb and flow of you just, the week leading up and what was on paper would not say you're going to be able to run super strong on the trail. So someone would look at that and be like, well, you haven't really been running trails. You haven't been running downhill. Your longest run has been, I don't know,
I think
7 or
like
8 miles.
Not even. I think my longest run was like 6.
Yeah. So, but what allows you to do that is consistently doing something every day that may not seem valuable, or it may not seem like from the data that it's moving you forward, but it is.
Like translatable. Because like Thursday morning before we left, we did a big set
Monster
in the pool.
swim.
Like hard set in the pool. And then the race was Saturday. That was Thursday morning. And then we drove but that's fitness. Like I knew I was going to rest on Friday. And I knew it wasn't going to take much for me to pop.
And you knew that you trusted that the swim was exactly what you needed, not just for the race on Saturday, but for Santa Cruz, and because we're driving in a car for a few hours. Like you knew that this swim had a purpose behind it. So you didn't get caught up in, well, I need to save my energy for the race on Saturday. Like I'm not going to do a swim. I'm just going to save it for race day. You trusted that this has a purpose in your journey to this race and beyond this race.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it was funny too, because when we got in and we did, it's a long set when you're like 2,000 in and you haven't even hit the main set yet. And so we hit the main set and it's a set of 300s. And the first one you're like, how's that? I'm like, like it was all right. I wasn't feeling super like, I don't know. It felt harder. And it was funny because I got into the second set and I had sent our friend who was racing Tremblant a message on Instagram, or I had thought about it, I hadn't sent it yet, but I wanted to just send her like, you are a river of boundless energy, right? Like go out there and get it. And I remember that I was like, that's not just for her, that's me. I'm a river of boundless energy. Like, heck yeah, like take your own medicine, Jess. I do that often. I got to take a sip of my own medicine. And and then it was fine. And then the last 300, which was all at 90% with sighting and deck up and blah, 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 was like the best one.
But this is it. Like you have to consistently show up every day so that you can have these moments when it doesn't add up. It doesn't seem like it adds up on paper, but it is the thing that is necessary for you to achieve the goals that you want. So consistently doing something. This is something I've done recently for athletes is I've created this momentum run. Okay. It'll actually go on their Training Peaks plan. It says momentum run. That's the name of it. It says 15 minutes. 15 minutes is less than 1% of your day. Go longer if you can. If you have time, go longer. If you feel good, go longer, up to whatever. But get this momentum run in. And I usually put it in there because I see a trend in consistently being all or nothing. Right? This all or nothing is something that I bump up against a lot as a coach. I see it in a lot of athletes. It's either going to be all full gas or it's going to be nothing at all. It's either I'm going to do the 6-hour ride or I'm not going to do any ride for 6 days. It's this playing, and they have this desire to move away from all or nothing, right? They see that consistency is important and they understand that consistency is important, but they can't quite grasp how to get from all or nothing to being consistent. And that's where I was thinking about this today on the ride is we're just the all or nothing athlete is consistently being all or nothing. So they're consistently practicing. They've got the consistency. They're doing it. They're being consistently all or nothing. Great. We can work with that. Like you are consistent, but it's just aimed at something that isn't serving you. Because all or nothing I have never seen it be successful in an athlete. I haven't seen someone who goes and does like their weekend workout and then does nothing during the midweek and doesn't end up with some sort of injury or some sort of something going on in their life that just intercepts, and then they're not actually able to perform on race day. So this consistent pattern can build in an athlete if you can just remove yourself, or let's take your awake athlete theme and pull 10,000 feet up and say, okay, well, what's really going on here? I see myself doing all or nothing. It's either like I'll do a workout or I don't do anything for days. But I do know that I feel good when I actually get a workout in. So where is the hiccup? The hiccup is usually in the mind is not satisfied with 15 minutes. It's dissatisfied with doing nothing. So it can't find that middle ground. It can't say, well, something is still helping and moving me forward. So you look at the all or nothing athlete, let's just say they go through a week, they don't do anything. Then you look at the athlete that's all or nothing and says, well, I'm just going to go try this out a little bit. So they run 15 minutes, 7 days a week. That's an hour 45. An hour and 45 minutes of running versus zero running. Which athlete is building momentum and is beginning to satisfy that desire, that craving, that understanding that they're a better person when they start to move the body, right? The person who did an hour 45 minutes. And you don't know where that's going to take you. Let's just say one day you're out there for 15 minutes and a meeting got canceled. On your phone, you get an alert. Oh, great. Now I can finish this run. I don't have another meeting for, an hour from now. I'm going to go get 15 or 30 more minutes in. That's a 45-minute run. All of a sudden, now you're at a 45-minute run when you didn't think you would have the time. And I think time is a constraint in this all or nothing situation too. But what's your take on I just explained?
No, it's true. And the only time that, because a lot of people do come to us when they come and they say, I'm all or nothing and I want to be more consistent. Like that's one of the goals when we get the intake. I want to be more consistent. But the only time you can be consistent is when you're right up in front of that habit.
Yes.
It's right there, that habit that says, I'm not going to do it, and you do it. And that's where the shift begins. And then you're going to be right up in front of that habit again and then you're going to do it. And then what happens is that pathway now begins to form literally in the brain, and then it becomes easier. There's an episode in season 3 of Awake Athlete. I can't remember which one it is. I'll put a link in the show notes. But it's kind of like we're masters of habit. Like we don't need to read books about understanding habit. Like we're already masters of a habit. It's just what habits, kind of full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning. Like what habits are we feeding? And so you got to interrupt those patterns that no longer serve you. And then if you're working in an office, like I just had this thought when you were like, oh, I have an hour, like I don't have a meeting for an hour. Like let's say you're in an office building, like in your desk drawer, have sneakers and a singlet and your running shorts, and then also have Burt's Bees little wipes and some essential oil and maybe some dry shampoo, right? Like that's what I would do 100%. A little dry shampoo if your hair gets sweaty or oily, and then some peppermint and lavender, maybe lemon for that super fresh smell. And then those Burt's Bees wipes. Like that's a shower, baby. That's better than a shower, because also your immune system's going to build because you're rewilding a little bit because you're not washing everything off. So yeah, it can be done. And when I was home on the Cape and I was with my parents and, wanted to spend time with them, I was going out for short little runs, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, like 15 minutes. Like one day I kind of had it with the whole Shark Tank thing. And I was like, I have got to get out for a run. And I went out and I was just humid, 6 p.m. I go out running on Cape Cod. Like, I got swarmed by mosquitoes. Like, I was batting them away, and I could feel like there was like 50 in my hand when I was batting them away. And I was just like, I intend no harm. Like, I didn't want to harm any of them. And I lasted about 15 minutes. But I came back and I was like, all right, that was 15 minutes. Like, 15 minutes. It's amazing. And I think I got like my long run in that week, and it was 5 miles. And so all of those things added up to the success that I had yesterday. So it does matter. And that 30-minute ride that you did last night when you came home, that did matter. And today I had a 3-hour recovery ride along the coast, and it was magnificent. Like, I think my heart rate was like under 120, 115. A lot of times it was like 107. It was so awesome. And I was just going super easy. Everybody was passing me, and I was just taking in the view, and I was like, this is going to help so much. And even though like my quads are so sore, like hitting my leg over the bike, I was like, oh my God. But yeah, like all of that is going to pay massive dividends when it comes to race day.
When it comes to Santa Cruz, and the reason why is your legs were already taxed. So why would you want to go out and ride and put more stress on them? So you're going to get enough stress just from riding easy for 3 hours. Like, that's the reasoning behind backing these two things up. You had a 3-hour day yesterday. You have a 3-hour day today. That's 6 hours. 6 hours. That's awesome on the body, within a 24-hour time period. So that's what's so beautiful about being a consistent athlete, is you can do these things. And I think that's back to when you address the intake form, like that's what we see a lot from athletes. It's like they have this ebb and flow, and I most times it comes to injury. Ebb and flow will bring injury because you go too hard, or you go too short too quickly, or too long too quickly, and then you're working through body sensations. So when you're able to be consistent, you can continually train and do stuff every day, and then slightly raise the bar and then lower it. Slightly raise the bar. Raise the bar meaning put some intensity in there and then adapt. Put some intensity in and then adapt. And then you get to the point where you get several sessions during the week where you can begin to sprinkle in intensity and make big improvements in your performance. But you got to get that solid foundation of consistency so that you're durable, and your default is consistency. Your default is consistency. I remember when I worked in my corporate job, I always had my running stuff with me. Every day I had my running stuff and my yoga stuff with me every day. If I got out early, I'd be able to shoot up to your class and take your yoga class. So I always had that stuff with me all the time. And I always took a lot of essential oil showers when I first thing in the morning, like to get into work. That's all you need.
With some warm water, and you put some peppermint and lavender and just rub your whole body, and then get some yummy lotion. Like, that's amazing.
And Josh, if you're listening to this, you were behind me when I was at my standing desk. You got the brunt of the essential peppermint oil always. But you benefited from it. I'm sure you did.
That's awesome.
But yeah, the consistency, well, this just snowballs. I know we got to wrap this up. But it really I like the deeper meaning of all of this consistency, because then you start to realize an athlete, is this what you want to be doing? Like, really, it really opens up that question of like, is this really what I want? Like, do I want to be that athlete that works out all the time and, doesn't get injured and feels good and feels joyful and energetic, and get real with yourself? Because if you're constantly ebbing and flowing with all or nothing, you're kind of, I would assume you're in a state of like, I want this, but I can't do it. I want this. And so you got this inner turmoil going on, and that's creating stress, a level of stress in your life. So ask yourself if it's something you really want. Maybe it's not something you want. Maybe it's something you think you want. But in reality, you kind of like the way that life is rolling out for you. And that's okay too, is my point. Give yourself a break. Like, you don't have to be forcing yourself into a situation that doesn't feel comfortable. Does that make sense? Like allow yourself to just be happy. But I think as athletes, we have this desire to be better, and a lot of times we're the ones holding ourselves back.
Yeah.
Through our actions and habits.
Well, 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've lived that too, right? It's weird. It's like when you're trying to change something like that and you butt up right up against like who it is that you really want to be. And that, even though you have that desire, sometimes it's like the desire is enough, but it's not enough because it's going to create a lot of stress. And eventually that will manifest in the body. And typically what we see is injury. But this allowing of ourselves to be who we really want to be, there's something really interesting there. I've butted up against it too. Like, whoa, it's right here. And I can see myself backing away from it. Like, oof, like, whoa, she's right there. Like, she's everything I say I want. And then I feel that like you start to back away from it and you start to go back into this kind of comfort zone, which is a really, really a discomfort zone. So, you know, I know I can speak to that. So, you know, again, like reach out anytime, you guys. We're happy to walk through this life with you, and it doesn't have to be a one-sided conversation. We'd love to have it be more than that. So, but if you're interested in like a deep dive, then come to camp or come to Maui or come see us at a race. We'll be in Kona, we'll be in St. George, and we'll be in Arizona.
In Santa Cruz.
Oh, in Santa Cruz. Yeah, I've been talking about that. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think we covered that. Great. Awesome. Very cool.
Okay.
Take us out.
Bye for now.